Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Yet another really important Battlefield 6 community update just dropped. If you missed what I covered yesterday regarding the community update going over what to expect with Season 3, I will link that in the description. This community update released today goes over land vehicle improvements, and a developer at DICE, Chris Matt, actually wrote up this entire thing, and it has a bunch of separate sections detailing major changes to land vehicle gameplay, some of which are very controversial, some of which are, well, long overdue. I've been saying for the longest time I've been very worried about Battlefield 6's vehicle gameplay leading into the release of Galmud Railway in Season 3, considering that we really haven't had much attention paid to vehicles since the release of Battlefield 6, so this post is definitely very welcome. If you want to stay up to date with Battlefield 6, this is the channel for you. Be sure to hit the sub button, hit the like button, and check out the second channel. That link will be in the description if you'd like fragrances. And all of my YouTube content, guys, is now also going to be posted on Spotify. It's just another way you can watch my content, another option for you guys. The DICE game designer Chris Matt starts this post off by detailing just over the past few months how they've been reviewing a bunch of feedback regarding vehicle performance and what people are complaining about. The next section goes into what they learned based off of gathering feedback. He says, quote, "We've seen consistent feedback around predictability, survivability, and responsiveness in vehicle combat, both when fighting in vehicles and against them. Vehicle encounters can feel difficult to read during combat, with outcomes that aren't always clear in the moment. In some situations, vehicles feel too fragile, while in others, they can feel too difficult to deal with, especially when supported by engineers or coordinated repairs. This applies whether you're engaging another vehicle or trying to take one down as infantry, and it's not always clear why an engagement plays out the way it does. We've also seen that the most effective vehicle playstyles often lean toward low-risk, long-range engagements. While this is an effective approach, we also want to make frontline vehicle strategies more viable, helping squads capture and defend objectives through deliberate tactical use. Our goal with these changes is to address these friction points directly, improving how vehicle gameplay feels without fundamentally changing its role on the battlefield." Now, before I move on to the next section of this post, I just want to say, reading through this post left me a little bit frustrated because there were multiple instances where they could have gave us way more specifics as to what they're actually changing, but instead they just gave us this vague, very nondescript, confusing statement that doesn't really tell us too much, and now we have to speculate. I wish DICE would just put numbers to some of the changes they describe so that we understand the specifics of what they're talking about. Maybe they'll deliver that to us in the Season 3 patch notes, but if they know what changes they're going to make, they should probably just deliver the information up front, even before the patch notes release. That's just my opinion. Moving on, they start to talk about more predictable vehicle combat. There are some massive fundamental changes to vehicle gameplay within this paragraph, and this is where some of the frustration regarding the vagueness of it kicked in. So this paragraph kicks off with, one of the most important areas we've focused on is making vehicle combat more consistent and easier to follow. We're toning down some of the extremes of our damage system while helping players better anticipate the outcome of engagements. Previously, many anti-tank tools were capable of eliminating tanks in only 2 hits. With the exception of some specialized tools, this will be increased to 3 hits across the board. Flanking vehicles will remain the most effective way to neutralize them, but will offer vehicle players more opportunity for counterplay. We are one paragraph into the section and already massive controversial changes in my opinion. First of all, they mention that a lot of weapons can two-shot tanks, namely, if you get behind a tank, flank it and hit it twice with, say, an RPG in the ass. You could kill a tank in 2 RPG shots. But in this paragraph, they say that they're increasing that threshold to actually take 3 hits to kill a tank across the board. Does this mean you will no longer be able to 2-shot kill a tank if you get 2 direct square hits to the rear of the vehicle? If that is the case, I completely and totally disagree with that direction. Being able to 2-hit kill a tank with a really good solo flank has been a staple of the Battlefield franchise for as long as I have played the franchise. In my opinion, if a tanker allows you to get in a position that is good enough to where you have time to hit him in the fucking rear end twice and kill him, that's the vehicle driver's fault. That is actually part of being a good tank driver, being constantly aware of where your weakest point is facing. I understand maybe their reasoning for making this change is to require more squad play to take vehicles out, but I actually think this change is going to backfire. I actually think this change is going to increase infantry versus vehicle frustrations, and it will only be a net negative to the gameplay of Battlefield 6. You guys are going to have to let me know your opinion on this in the comments section. In my opinion, being able to two-hit kill a tank from behind is a staple of the franchise, and I have no idea what they think they're doing by getting rid of it. But they continue this section by stating, alongside this change, referring to the change I mentioned previously, we're simplifying some elements of the damage calculation system. Instead of a wide, continuous range of possible values, hits will fall into a smaller set of clearly defined outcomes based on impact angle and location. For example, currently in game, hitting a tank from the side with an RPG could deal a wide range of damage depending on subtle differences in angle, making it difficult to judge how many hits a vehicle could take. With these changes, those outcomes will be much more consistent. A similar shot will result in one of a number of small predictable damage values, depending on the quality of hit. This still rewards positioning and lining up strong angles, but it makes it easier to understand how much damage is being dealt by incoming projectiles. So, TLDR, they are making damage more consistent and predictable when you hit a vehicle. That is actually a really good change and a complete no-brainer, in my opinion. They go on to say that, quote, we're also reducing the number of vehicle-specific damage modifiers and rebalancing vehicle health pools. Previously, vehicles like the MBT could be more durable than the IFV in certain situations, but just as fragile in others depending on hit angle or location. By removing these inconsistencies and relying more on overall health differences, it becomes much easier to understand how many more hits a vehicle can take. Finally, we're also making changes to guided weapons so their damage is no longer affected by impact angles or hit locations. Weapons that are not manually aimed will deal a consistent amount of damage. We're also making improvements to how anti-air missiles interact with countermeasures, such as flares, to improve the reliability of these tools. Again, these sound like really great changes that simply improve the consistency and reliability of vehicle gameplay in Battlefield 6. You guys are going to have to let me know if you think the same thing. Moving on to the next section, titled More Controlled Survivability. This section has many interesting changes that we can't really 100% understand on paper. We're definitely going to have to get our hands on the game to see what these changes do to the vehicle gameplay of BF6. But they start this section off by saying, another key area of feedback has been how inconsistent vehicle survivability can feel, particularly depending on access to repairs and support. While vehicles could sometimes feel fragile, in other cases stacking repairs could allow them to sustain through heavy damage and create stalemates during vehicle engagements. To address this, we're making changes to how vehicles recover health and how repairs behave in and out of combat. The first massive change they mention here has to do with repairing and health regeneration of vehicles. They state, instead of repairing at a constant rate, the repairs will begin strong, but weaken over time while a vehicle remains in combat. So that obviously means while a tank is shooting another tank, taking damage, just engaging in a fight. They go on to say, additionally, we're introducing diminishing returns when multiple engineers are repairing the same vehicle at the same time. These changes keep coordination valuable while ensuring repairs don't scale in a way that becomes overly difficult to counter. This raises the question in my mind, is there going to be an ideal number of repair engineers to have on a vehicle? What is that ideal number of repairmen going to be? Is it going to be 2, maybe even 3? Anything past 3 going to be completely unviable? On paper, if I had to predict what DICE is going to do, I'd be willing to bet they're probably going to make having 2 engineers repair your vehicle be this sweet spot, and then anything past 2, you're going to have pretty bad diminishing returns. But like I mentioned previously, there's a lot of vague shit in this post, and I really wish they would have specified some things rather than just leaving us in the dark. But they continue this section by stating, at the same time, we are going to rework health regeneration by removing health brackets from all vehicles. Vehicles will take longer to begin regenerating health after exiting combat, increasing from roughly 6 seconds to 12 seconds. Once regeneration begins, however, it will be significantly faster, increasing from around 5% of health per second all the way up to 10% of health per second, and will continue all the way till full health instead of stopping at set thresholds. Even when critically damaged, vehicles will no longer be prevented from regenerating entirely. Instead, regeneration will continue at a heavily reduced rate, roughly 80% slower than normal. Overall, this means vehicles take longer to safely recover during combat, but are more self-sufficient once they successfully disengage. Lots of stuff to go over here. So, number one, I definitely like that they removed these health brackets from vehicles. I just didn't really understand why they're in place in the first place. They are making basically health regeneration in vehicles matter again. In previous Battlefield games, vehicles basically self-regenerating health was a thing, and they're clearly making it more prevalent in Battlefield 6 with these changes. However, they were careful to make sure that health regeneration didn't kick in too fast by making sure it takes a full 12 seconds of taking basically no damage and being out of combat for any sort of health regeneration to kick in. So overall, I think this is actually going to be just fine for the gameplay of Battlefield 6. I think this is an improvement to vehicle gameplay, and I am excited to jump into vehicles and play in them way more once Season 3 drops. I haven't really played in many vehicles in this game because I just really was completely dissatisfied with the balance and the overall state of things. So if you missed out on vehicle gameplay on this channel and you're going, why the fuck does Enders only play infantry? Don't worry, next season you will see tankders. Moving on to yet another extensive section of this post, this time dealing with some incredibly important things to do with land vehicles. This section is entitled Increased Control and Responsiveness. This is my personal, biggest gripe with the way the vehicles feel. They just feel so fucking bad, bro. Between the sensitivity differences and third person and zoom and first person, and the fact that the tanks just feel so sluggish, on top of the fact that you get stuck on everything because the terrain interaction is really bad. They just weren't that fun to even move around in, but they start this section off by saying, responsiveness has also been a major focus area, particularly in how vehicles handle under pressure. Controlling a tank should convey its weight and presence while still allowing players to react quickly to changing situations. We're improving acceleration and turning to make vehicles more responsive in movement. We're also increasing turret rotation speeds and improving how aiming behaves, especially in the first-person view. This should help tracking targets feel more aligned with player input, particularly during close-range engagements. Again, this is another situation where I wish they gave us a little bit more specifics, but I'm hoping the Season 3 patch notes will provide that. These changes sound really, really long overdue and exactly what these tanks need. The tanks just feel like shit, and hopefully this addresses it. They go on to say that additionally, they are reducing how often armored vehicles lose mobility as a result of taking damage. Immobilization will be tied to specific tools such as anti-vehicle mines rather than being triggered by general incoming damage. This allows players to retain control in critical moments while still creating clear counterplay opportunities. This I'm not so sure about, because you have to understand, they're increasing the amount of rockets a tank takes to kill from the rear, and they're also making sure an RPG can't mobility hit a tank. I don't know, guys. I don't know. That sounds a little weird. I have to say, when I hit a tank in the ass with an RPG, I kind of expect it to be in a really bad situation. But they go on to say that for air vehicles, they're also making improvements to threat awareness, including new UI indicators that help pilots better identify incoming missiles and nearby threats, giving more time to react and make informed decisions in combat. However, they have no mention of air radar here whatsoever. You know what would increase the pilot's ability to identify incoming threats? Adding air radar to the fucking game. To summarize the end of all of this stuff, they basically say, taken together, these changes are designed to support more active and engaging vehicle gameplay by making combat easier to read, handling more responsive, and survivability more consistent. All very respectable endeavors, thank you DICE. The second to last section is entitled Loadouts and Supporting Changes. This, once again, has massive gameplay changes to the gameplay of Battlefield 6 vehicles. They go on to say that to support the previous changes I already mentioned, they are making adjustments to vehicle and engineer loadouts. Some customization options that contributed to unclear gameplay outcomes are being removed or reworked. For example, we're removing the reinforced plating upgrade, as it made it harder to judge incoming damage and overshadowed other choices. To support this change, we're adjusting baseline vehicle durability and replacing it with a new passive that speeds up the recharge rate of countermeasures, such as projectile intercept system and thermal blocking smoke while at low HP. The really big ticket item here is the removal of reinforced plating upgrade. That made gameplay extremely unclear, and I'm very happy to see that. Moving on with the section, they say at the same time, we've made targeted improvements to underused vehicle equipment and passives to make them more impactful and worth choosing. Thermal smoke will deal damage to enemy soldiers within its radius, increasing its defensive value in close quarters encounters. Counterfire radar will include a passive component to improve its uptime and overall utility, providing more consistent battlefield awareness. We've also expanded equipment options for vehicles like IFV, which will have access to additional tools such as mine countermeasures and the mobile command center, increasing its flexibility in different combat roles. In addition, we're taking a closer look at engineer loadouts. As part of this update, we're completing a full balance pass on launchers, including improvements to underused options like the 9K38 IGLA and MBT Law. These changes include adjustments to damage and projectile behavior, helping each launcher feel more reliable and distinct in its role. We're also applying the same approach to anti-vehicle mines, giving each option a clearer purpose within the sandbox so that choosing between them becomes a more deliberate decision. Overall, these changes are designed to create a healthier balance across the engineer toolkit, reducing reliance on a small number of dominant loadouts while supporting a wider range of viable choices in vehicle combat. So, a lot to digest just from this community post. I fully expect the Season 3 patch notes to be a certified book to sort through, and I'm excited for that because I've really been waiting for a lot of gameplay changes, as you guys know, and I hope Season 3 is the start of it, and it certainly looks to be the start of something great happening with Battlefield 6. You guys are going to have to let me know what you think about all of these separate changes in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video and found it informative, be sure to drop a like, hit the sub button, and of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Check out the second channel where I cover my hobby from an enthusiast perspective. And also, guys, all of my YouTube content will also now be posted on Spotify. Check that out. Link will also be in the description and the pinned comment. And if you've never come by a stream, now's the time to come by a stream because you're not going to want to miss the Do-Rag stream on May 12th, Season 3 release. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.